My granddaughter hasn't smiled in 3 weeks. She used to light up every room she walked into, but lately she flinches when her mother raises her voice. And last Tuesday she grabbed my arm so tight her knuckles went white and whispered, "Grandpa, please don't take your medicine tonight. Promise me. Just hide it under your tongue and spit it out when she's not looking." I thought she was being dramatic. I thought it was teenage anxiety, or maybe she'd seen something scary on the internet. But then she slid her phone across the kitchen table, opened to a screenshot that made my blood run cold, and everything I thought I knew about my own daughter collapsed like a house built on sand. But I need to go back to the beginning, because none of this makes sense without context. My name is Harold Whitfield. I'm 68 years old, and I spent 41 years as a Finnish carpenter in Gresham, Oregon, just east of Portland. Built cabinets, bookshelves, dining tables, you name it. My hands have shaped more wood than I can count, and my workshop out in the garage was my cathedral. That's where I went, to think, to pray, to grieve, and I had plenty of grieving to do. My wife Connie passed away 9 months ago from pancreatic cancer. We had 39 years together. She was the kind of woman who remembered every neighbor's birthday, who left notes in my lunchbox even after 4 decades of marriage, who could calm a crying baby or a furious customer with the same gentle voice. When the cancer took her, it took the center of my world with it. We had 2 daughters. Linda, the older one, lived about 20 minutes away in Milwaukee with her husband Derek. Derek was a financial planner, always wearing pressed shirts and talking about portfolios and tax strategies. They had 1 daughter, Emma, who was 14 and the spitting image of Connie. Then there was my younger daughter, Karen, who'd moved to Boise, Idaho, about 6 years back for a nursing position at Street Luke's. Karen called every Sunday without fail, sent photos of her garden, visited when she could. It was Linda who showed up at my door 2 weeks after the funeral, mascara streaked, holding a casserole dish. "Dad, I can't stand the thought of you alone in this house," she said. "Derek and I have been talking, and we want to move in for a while, just until you're steady again. You shouldn't be managing all of this by yourself." Part of me wanted to say no. I'd been taking care of myself just fine, but the house felt enormous without Connie. The silence in the mornings was the worst part, that hour when she would have been humming in the kitchen, and instead there was nothing. So I said yes. They moved in the following weekend. Linda, Derek, and Emma. My quiet 3-bedroom house suddenly had noise again. Footsteps on the stairs, the TV going in the evenings, Emma's music drifting from the guest room. At first it felt like medicine, but medicine can turn to poison if the dose is wrong. It started small. Linda reorganized the kitchen, which I understood. She rearranged the living room furniture, which I tolerated. But then she boxed up Connie's sewing corner without asking me. "It's just clutter, Dad. You don't sew. It's collecting dust and making you sad." "It doesn't make me sad," I told her. "It makes me remember." She patted my shoulder like I was a child. "That's what I mean." Then she went after my workshop. She told me the garage needed to be cleaned out for Derek's car because street parking was bad for his BMW. I told her Derek could park in the driveway. She said the chemicals and sawdust were a health hazard, that at my age I shouldn't be operating power tools. "At your age." She said that a lot. I was 68, not 98. I could still swing a hammer straighter than most men half my age. Derek was smoother about it. He'd sit with me after dinner, talking numbers. "Harold, have you looked at your accounts recently? Connie handled a lot of the finances, right? I could help you get organized, make sure everything's in order." I told him I had an accountant. He smiled and said, "Of course, but family should look out for family." About 6 weeks after they moved in, I started getting foggy. Little things at first. I'd walk into the kitchen and forget why. I'd lose track of what day it was. One morning I couldn't remember if I'd eaten breakfast, even though Linda said she'd made me eggs an hour earlier. "Dad, you're scaring me," Linda said, her voice thick with concern. "This happened to Grandma Rose, remember?" She started forgetting little things, and then she trailed off, shaking her head. My mother had died with Alzheimer's. It was the one thing that truly frightened me, losing my mind the way she had. Linda knew that. She knew exactly where to press. "Maybe we should talk to your doctor about adjusting your medication," she said, "and I've been reading about supplements that help with cognitive decline." I picked some up at the pharmacy. She started giving me vitamins every morning with my coffee. Big capsules, hard to swallow, but she insisted they were important. She also took over managing my blood pressure medication and my metformin for my type 2 diabetes. You can't afford to miss doses, Dad. Let me handle it. One less thing for you to worry about. I let her. That was my mistake. I was grieving and tired, and I let my daughter take control of things I should have been handling myself. The fog got worse. There were whole afternoons I couldn't account for. I'd wake up from naps I didn't remember taking. My blood sugar readings were erratic, which Linda attributed to stress and grief. Derek suggested, more than once, that I might want to think about long-term care options. Not a nursing home, he'd say quickly, reading my expression. Just an assisted living community. Nice ones. With activities and meal plans. You'd have people around, company. It might be better than rattling around this big house. This is my home, I said. Connie and I built our life here. Of course, Derek said. Just something to think about. Meanwhile, Emma was changing. She'd always been outgoing, chatty, the kind of kid who'd sit in my workshop and ask 100 questions about dovetail joints and wood grain. But she'd gone quiet. She stopped coming to the garage. At dinner, she barely spoke. Just pushed food around her plate and asked to be excused early. When I tried to talk to her alone, Linda always seemed to appear. Emma, leave Grandpa alone. He needs his rest. I'm fine, Linda. I like talking to her. She's got homework, Dad. One night, maybe 4 months in, I heard Emma crying in her room. I knocked softly and opened the door. She was sitting on the bed with her phone in her hands, tears rolling down her cheeks. Sweetheart, what's wrong? She looked up at me, and I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. Fear. Not sadness, not teenage angst. Real fear. Grandpa, I need to tell you something, but I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared you won't believe me. Scared of what will happen if Mom finds out I told you. Before she could say another word, footsteps in the hallway. Linda's voice. Emma? Is your light still on? It's a school night. Emma's face went blank instantly, like a switch had been flipped. Just reading, she called back. She looked at me and mouthed, Not now. I went to bed that night with a knot in my stomach. My 14-year-old granddaughter was afraid of her own mother. Something was deeply wrong, and I was too foggy, too slow, too medicated to see it clearly. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. Linda was at a hair appointment. Derek was at work. Emma had come home from school early because of a half-day. She found me in the kitchen, making myself a sandwich because Linda wasn't there to make my lunch, and I realized I was thinking more clearly than I had in weeks. Grandpa, sit down, please. She put her phone on the table between us. Her hand was shaking. I found something on Mom's phone 2 weeks ago. She left it unlocked on the counter, and I saw an email notification from someone named Craig Whitmore, and the subject line said, Whitfield Estate Planning. I thought that was weird because why is someone emailing Mom about your estate? So I looked. She opened her photos and showed me a screenshot. It was an email thread between Linda and a lawyer I'd never heard of, discussing the process for obtaining conservatorship over an elderly parent showing signs of cognitive decline. The lawyer outlined what documentation they'd need, what medical evaluations would be required, and how to position it so the court would grant full authority over finances, property, and medical decisions. Keep scrolling, Emma whispered. The next screenshot was a text conversation between Linda and Derek. He's getting worse every week, Linda had written. The new dosage is working. Dr. Pham won't question it if we bring him in now. He'll fail any cognitive test. Derek's reply, Good. Once we have conservatorship, we list the house. Market's hot right now. Easy $600K. Plus his accounts. We can pay off everything and still have enough to relocate. Linda again. Karen can't know until it's done. She'll fight it. But by then, it'll be legal, and she can't do anything. What about Emma? Derek had written. She doesn't suspect anything. She's 14. She's oblivious. But she wasn't oblivious. She was watching. She was listening. And she was smarter than both of them. There's more, Emma said. She swiped to another screenshot, this one from Linda's browser history. Searches for how long does lorazepam take to cause memory loss. Mixing benzodiazepines with metformin side effects. Early signs of dementia in elderly parents. My hands were shaking so badly the phone almost slipped from my fingers. My own daughter was drugging me. She was poisoning me with my morning coffee and those so-called vitamins to make me appear senile, so she could take control of my money, sell my house, and shut me away somewhere while she and Derek paid off whatever debts they'd buried themselves in. Grandpa, please don't take your medicine tonight. Promise me. Just hide it under your tongue and spit it out when she's not looking. That's what she'd said. And now I understood. How long have you known? I asked her. 2 weeks. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I couldn't figure out how. Mom watches everything. She checks my phone. She listens at doors. I've been so scared, Grandpa. I didn't know who to tell. You told me. That's exactly right. What do we do? I sat there for a long moment, my mind working harder than it had in months, cutting through the chemical fog like sunlight through clouds. I thought about Connie. I thought about what she would do. And I knew. We're going to be very, very careful, I said. And we're going to get help. That afternoon, while Linda was still out, I called my doctor, Dr. Pham, directly. I didn't go through the front desk. I called his personal cell, which he'd given me years ago after Connie's diagnosis. Told me to use it any time. Jim, I need to see you today. Off the books. I think someone's been adding medication to my food and I need blood work done immediately. To his credit, Dr. Pham didn't hesitate. Come in the back entrance at 4. I'll clear my last appointment. Then I called my attorney, Barbara Hollis. Barbara had handled Connie's and my estate planning for 15 years. She was sharp as a tack and didn't tolerate nonsense. Barbara, I need to see you. Today, if possible. I believe my daughter and her husband are attempting to obtain fraudulent conservatorship over me, and I have evidence they may be drugging me to support their case. Silence on the line. Then, Harold, I'm clearing my 3 o'clock. Get here. I told Emma to act completely normal when her mother got home. Don't change anything. Don't look at her differently. Don't touch your phone in front of her. I've been doing that for 2 weeks, Emma said quietly. I'm good at pretending now. That sentence broke my heart. A 14-year-old shouldn't have to be good at pretending around her own mother. I went to Dr. Pham first. He drew blood, ran a cognitive assessment, and examined me thoroughly. When the preliminary results came back 2 hours later, he sat me down with a grave expression. Harold, your blood shows significant levels of lorazepam. That's a benzodiazepine. You're not prescribed this. Combined with your metformin and blood pressure medication, it would absolutely cause confusion, memory lapses, drowsiness, and disorientation. Someone has been introducing this into your system consistently over what I'd estimate is several months. My daughter, I said. She manages my medications, brings me coffee every morning. This is a crime, Harold. This is assault, poisoning. I know what it is. He wrote up a formal report documenting my cognitive function as normal, my blood work showing unauthorized substances, and his medical opinion that any apparent cognitive decline was pharmacologically induced, not organic. He also advised me to stop consuming anything prepared by anyone in my household. From there, I went straight to Barbara's office. I showed her the screenshots Emma had taken. I showed her Dr. Pham's preliminary report. I told her about the conservatorship lawyer, the texts between Linda and Derek, the browser searches. Barbara's jaw was tight. Harold, they haven't filed anything yet, which means we're ahead of them. Here's what we do. First, I file a preemptive motion with the court establishing your competency, supported by Dr. Pham's evaluation. Second, we go to the police. This is fraud, forgery, if they've drafted any documents with your signature, and criminal poisoning. Third, we protect Emma. What do you mean, protect Emma? If Linda and Derek are arrested, Emma needs somewhere safe. Do you have family? My younger daughter, Karen. She's in Boise. Call her tonight. Tell her everything. She needs to be ready. I drove home, feeling like I was seeing the world for the first time in months. The fog was already lifting because I hadn't taken any of Linda's vitamins that morning, and I'd poured my coffee into the houseplant by the window when she wasn't looking. That evening, I played my part. I sat in my recliner, let Linda bring me tea, which I quietly dumped into the soil of Connie's potted fern when she left the room. I acted confused at dinner, asked what day it was twice, called Emma by Connie's name on purpose. Linda and Derek exchanged a look across the table, the kind of look that said it's working. It made me sick, but I held steady. After everyone went to bed, I called Karen from my workshop, the one place Linda never went anymore because she considered it a hazard. Dad, what are you saying? Linda's drugging you? I have the blood work. I have the screenshots. I have my doctor's report and my lawyer involved. Karen was crying. I'm coming home. I'll be there tomorrow. No, not yet. The police need to handle this first. If you show up suddenly, Linda will know something's wrong. Give it 48 hours. Those next 2 days were the hardest acting job of my life. I shuffled around the house, pretended to forget conversations, let Derek explain my own finances to me like I was simple. Every morning, I hid Linda's pills under my tongue and spit them into the bathroom trash wrapped in toilet paper. I poured every drink she gave me down the drain, and I got sharper every hour. The cobwebs cleared. My memory came back. I could feel my own mind returning to me like blood flowing back into a limb that had gone numb. On the second day, I put on my coat to go for a walk. Linda stepped in front of the door. "Where are you going, Dad?" "Just around the block. Get some fresh air." "I don't think that's a good idea. You've been so unsteady lately. What if you fall? Let me come with you." "Linda, I'm going for a walk. I've been walking around this neighborhood for 30 years. But your memory, Dad. What if you get confused and can't find your way back?" I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, held as a baby, taught to ride a bike, walked down the aisle at her wedding, and I saw a stranger, someone calculating behind her eyes, someone who'd chosen money over her own father. "I'll manage," I said, and I walked past her. I went to the police station. Detective Mark Ruiz, in the Financial Crimes Division, had already received Barbara's filing and Dr. Pham's report. He'd been building the case for 2 days. "Mr. Whitfield, we've confirmed several things. There are no conservatorship papers filed yet, but we found that Derek opened a joint account in your name and is 3 months ago. There have been transfers totaling about $37,000 from your primary savings. We also found that Linda contacted 3 different assisted living facilities in the past month, all budget operations, one of which has pending complaints with the state. They were going to warehouse me," I said. "Sell my house and dump me somewhere cheap. That appears to be the plan, yes. We have enough for arrest warrants. We can execute them this afternoon. I need you and Emma to be out of the house." I picked up Emma from school myself, told the front office it was a family emergency, which wasn't a lie. She got in the car and looked at me with those big eyes, so much like Connie's. "Is it happening?" "It's happening. We're going to Aunt Karen's." "What about Mom?" I didn't answer right away. How do you tell a 14-year-old that her mother is about to be arrested? That the woman who packed her school lunches and braided her hair was also capable of poisoning her own father for money? Your mom made some very bad choices, sweetheart, and now there are consequences. But you are going to be okay. I promise you that. We drove to a hotel near the airport. Karen had flown in that morning and was waiting for us. She grabbed Emma and held her tight, and Emma finally broke down and sobbed the way she'd been needing to for weeks. Detective Ruiz called me at 4:17 that afternoon. "Mr. Whitfield, Linda and Derek Moran have been arrested at your residence. They've been charged with elder abuse, financial fraud, theft, and criminal poisoning. We recovered the medications Linda was using from the kitchen, hidden in a vitamin bottle in the pantry. Derek's laptop contained financial records and correspondence with the conservatorship attorney confirming the scheme." "How did she react?" I asked, not sure why I even wanted to know. "She denied everything at first. Then she cried. Then she asked if we could keep this quiet, said it would ruin Derek's career." "His career?" "Not I'm sorry, Dad. Not is my father okay?" "His career." The months that followed were difficult in ways I hadn't anticipated. The legal proceedings were long. Derek cooperated first, tried to paint it as Linda's idea, said she'd been the one pushing for it, that he'd just gone along. Linda's lawyer attempted to argue that she'd been acting out of genuine concern for my welfare, that the drugging was a misguided attempt to help me sleep, that the financial moves were protective measures. The judge didn't buy it. The evidence was too clear. The emails, the texts, the browser searches, the blood work, the secret bank account. Linda got 5 years. Derek got 3 with credit for cooperation. Standing in that courtroom, watching my daughter led away in handcuffs, was the worst moment of my life. Worse than losing Connie, in some ways. Because Connie didn't choose to leave me. Linda chose to betray me. She looked at me as they took her out. I expected anger, defiance. Instead, she just looked small, tired, like a woman who'd been running a con for so long she'd forgotten there was any other way to live. "I needed the money, Dad," she said. "We were drowning. Derek's business was failing. We owed people. I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me for help," I said. "You could have told me the truth. You would have said no. I would have said yes. I would have given you anything, Linda. Anything except my dignity. She didn't respond. They led her away, and that was the last time I spoke to my older daughter. Emma came to live with me. Karen helped with the transition, flying out every other weekend for the first few months. We got Emma a therapist, a good one, and slowly she started to come back to herself. She started smiling again. She started laughing again. She even started coming out to the workshop, sitting on the stool by the window, watching me sand a piece of maple. "Can you teach me?" she asked one Saturday morning. "Teach you what? How to build things?" So, I did. I taught her how to read wood grain, how to measure twice and cut once, how to feel when a joint is tight and true. She was a natural. Patient hands, careful eye. Connie would have been so proud. Karen took over my finances temporarily, just to sort out the mess Derek had made. She found every unauthorized transfer, every suspicious account. Working with Barbara, they recovered most of the money. The house, my house, never went on any market. It stayed exactly where it was, exactly as Connie and I had made it. I make my own coffee now. I manage my own medications, keep them in a locked box in my bedroom. My blood sugar is stable, my mind is clear, and Dr. Pham says my cognitive function is excellent for a man my age or any age, really. Sometimes at night, after Emma has gone to bed and the house is quiet, I sit in the kitchen and think about how close I came. If Emma hadn't looked at her mother's phone that day, if she'd been too scared to tell me, if she'd believed, the way children often do, that parents are always right, I would have ended up drugged and confused in some budget care facility, signing papers I couldn't read, losing everything Connie and I built while my daughter and her husband spent the money and told themselves they deserved it. But Emma did look. She did tell me. At 14 years old, she put herself between me and the people who were supposed to protect us both, and she chose truth over comfort. That's not just bravery. That's a kind of love that doesn't have a name, the kind that costs you everything and asks for nothing in return. People say blood is thicker than water. I used to believe that. Now I believe something different. I believe that family is whoever shows up when things get hard and stays even when it costs them. Karen showed up. Emma showed up. Dr. Pham and Barbara and Detective Ruiz, they all showed up. Linda had every advantage, every reason to do the right thing, and she chose greed. Derek had the skills to build something honest and he used them to steal instead. If you're listening to this and you know an older person who's suddenly getting confused, suddenly forgetting things, suddenly seeming different, don't just accept it. Ask questions. Look closer. Check who's managing their medications, who's handling their finances, who's making decisions about their care. Elder abuse doesn't always look like bruises and neglect. Sometimes it looks like a loving daughter bringing morning coffee. Sometimes it looks like a helpful son-in-law offering to manage the books. And if you're a young person who sees something that doesn't feel right in your family, I want you to hear me. You are not too young to make a difference. You are not too small to matter. Emma was 14. She saved my life, my home, my sanity. And she did it with a screenshot and the courage to say, "Grandpa, something is wrong." Trust that voice inside you, the one that says this isn't right. That voice is usually trying to save someone. Maybe it's trying to save you. These days, Emma and I have dinner together every evening. She tells me about school, about her friends, about the bookshelf she's designing in the workshop. On Sundays, Karen calls, and we put her on speaker so she can hear Emma describe whatever project we're working on. The house isn't quiet anymore, but it's a good kind of noise. It's the sound of people who chose each other. I still miss Connie every single day. I still talk to her sometimes, out in the workshop, when the sawdust is floating in the late afternoon light and the radio is playing something soft. I tell her about Emma. I tell her about the bookshelf. I tell her we're going to be okay, and I believe it. Not because everything turned out perfect, but because when the worst thing happened, the right people stood up. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.